McIntyre, founder of Etherplan, and in this video I am going to explain ETC versus Ethereum 2.0. What is the difference? This is based on a very popular article in my blog etherplan.com. There's several differences between Ethereum Classic and Ethereum 2.0. It is important to note that this is we're talking about Ethereum 2.0, not Ethereum 1.0. The current Ethereum and Ethereum Classic are practically the same. The difference between the two chains essentially is that Ethereum reversed the DAO hack in 2016, and they violated immutability and they returned the money to the people who were the original owners of that ETH in the DAO. Ethereum Classic is the original chain that did not do that violation of immutability because it has the philosophy of code is law. So that's those. Today, Ethereum 1.0 and Ethereum Classic are practically the same in terms of technology. What's going to happen is when Ethereum migrates to Ethereum 2.0, then these differences are going to be existing between the two chains. Let's see. The first two things they both have them, and they're gonna keep on having them, which is a cryptocurrency. ETC cryptocurrency is ETC, and Ethereum 2.0 is going to continue to be ETH. Both are going to have smart contracts, so in that case they're going to be the same. The consensus mechanism is where the big change is going to happen, because Ethereum Classic is going to stay with proof of work, which is the most secure consensus mechanism in a blockchain, because it uses proof of work, which is the signal that miners send to the network when they send the block, and the nodes know that that block is the honest block, just because of the work done on it. If they receive the correct block, the honest block, and a dishonest block that didn't have that work done by miners globally, then all nodes know that they have to reject it. This is how they reach consensus, and this is why they have a 50% security level, against attacks. If somebody has a little bit more than 50% of the total mining power in the network, then they could send fraudulent blocks. That is, blocks with change transactions or change transaction history to steal money from others. That is called a 51% attack, and they can perform what is called double spend. In the case of Ethereum 2.0, they chose to go to proof of stake. This is less secure because with only 1/3 of the nodes that are the stakers that produce blocks, if 1/3 of them decide to attack the chain, then they can do the changes they want. Proof of stake is much less secure just because of that difference in the fault tolerance. It's technically called fault tolerance in computer science. Proof of stake also is insecure because the network, instead of using miners that are anonymous and they can participate in the chain from wherever in the world, it uses individuals or entities that have to deposit an amount of capital called a stake in Ethereum in a special account and leave the money locked there. So the assumption is that just because they don't want to lose that money, they're going to have a bias to send honest blocks to the rest of the blockchain. The rest of the blockchain just accepts the blocks from these stakers. This is a huge difference because proof of work is a completely objective system. It uses physics and thermodynamics. They burn energy to produce the hash of the block, and they send that, and it's absolutely objective. In the case of Ethereum 2.0, proof of stake is absolutely subjective. There's an assumption that people don't want to lose their money, the stakers don't want to lose the money, so they are going to always be honest. The thing is that when you have a group of stakers controlling the network, um, they are inside the ledger of the blockchain because they have their accounts and their money inside, and the protocol designated them just because of these deposits to have the right to produce blocks. And they because they are inside the network, you cannot fork away from them and get another group of block producers if they are dishonest. They are stuck inside the blockchain. This has happened with other blockchains that are proof of stake, and they wanted to get rid of a dishonest entity inside, or what they consider a dishonest entity, and they forked, but the same entity replicated the account and their powers on both chains. So they had to eventually fork again and violate immutability and delete the account of that entity and just kick them out of the blockchain. So that basically is 100% a subjective system. This case that I mentioned is Teamet, the network where people can blog, etc. And it's a community that had a problem because the company that had a lot of steam, the coin, was a staker and controller of the system, was acquired by the group that controls Tron, Justin Sun, etc. And they didn't like him, so they decided to fork. But when they fork, he was still in the second one, so they had to fork again to basically delete his property. So they violated property agreements, every single rule in the book about immutability. And there's many other reasons why proof of stake is less secure. The monetary policy in Ethereum Classic is fixed and known, algorithmic, and anybody can go and see it. And it's in the protocol, and it's going to have 210 million total supply in 80 years or something like that, more or less like Bitcoin, that in 80 years is going to have a total supply of 21 million. Ethereum Classic chose 210 million to be similar to Bitcoin, and it has the same kind of step down approach to inflation or the dilution of the stock, or the distribution of the stock. Now Ethereum Classic has 130 million more or less ETC issued, and it started issuing 5 per block, and then 4, and then 3.2, because it goes discounting by 20% every 5 million blocks, and it's going to continue like that until it diminishes with the supply diminishes per block, and it's going to have a total of 210 million. In the case of Ethereum, Ethereum 1 and Ethereum 2.2, they don't have a monetary policy. They have changed the monetary policy several times. They started with 5, then they reduced it to 3, then to 2, and then they changed it again because they changed the fee model. So some of the fees are being burnt, so the supply is modified again. So it doesn't matter when you have a blockchain that doesn't have a fixed monetary policy. It doesn't really matter whether the developers decided to do something benevolent, because you never know if in the future developers are going to decide to do something not benevolent. And not only that, but when they migrate to proof of stake, the interest of the stakers is going to be to always issue more perpetually, even maybe increase the supply per block or the issuance per block, because that's the way they are in economics what is called Cantilon Insiders. They are the first ones who receive the coins, and they didn't, like miners, they didn't invest in machines and electricity or data centers or anything, so they just keep the money, and they become bigger as compared to the rest of the network. In the case of miners, a lot of people think that they're rich, these rich companies, just because, but it's not the truth. They are companies that are just like data processors, and it's a very competitive market, and they have very small margins. When Bitcoin goes up, they make a little bit more money, just like gold miners, but they have to spend a lot of money in capital in machines, data centers, and between 50 and 60% of their expenses on a monthly basis is electricity, the electricity bill. And they really sink all that capital, and their only expectation is to get bitcoins in the future, or ETC in the future, in the case of Ethereum Classic. And that's why they have an additional incentive to be honest, because their whole business model is based on the income, future income. In the case of stakers, they just put capital. They don't have any risk, and they receive more capital in the form of staking rewards. So that's a problem in not a, I was mentioning the monetary policy, but this is very relevant also to the model of stakers and their incentives. So the monetary policy in Ethereum 2.0 is much weaker and subjective than how objective it is in Ethereum Classic. Then the database, Ethereum Classic as a Nakamoto consensus blockchain, proof of work based Nakamoto consensus. The whole model is to replicate. This is the second most important point in a proof of work blockchain. The first point is proof of work, and the second one is the fact that it's fully replicated in all nodes globally. This is digamos, a fundamental security point or security feature because it's what it makes it proof even against can survive a nuclear war. No, that this is exactly the same security model of the internet. The internet globally, you can send the information packet, and if it can't go in one direction, it goes back and it takes another direction, and it could go travel around the world until it reaches its the node or the router or the browser or the machine that is looking for. The same goes for that kind of redundancy and replication of the system in all nodes is exactly the same thing in Ethereum Classic or in a Nakamoto consensus blockchain. But in this case, rather than routing information, what they do is replicate the information in all the nodes to have that kind of redundancy. If half the nodes in the world end, even if half the miners explode, the rest of the network can continue. Or if 100% of the miners explode, then new miners can come up in other parts of the world and continue. In the case of proof of stake, they decided to fragment. I'm going to show a diagram later. They decided to fragment Ethereum 2.0 to give it scalability. So this is this fragmentation already reduces security, because instead of having everything replicated in all the nodes, they have some parts in some nodes, other parts in other nodes, other parts in other nodes. So they approximate. Not only they're approximating to traditional systems because they're using capitalists, just like in the banking system, to produce blocks and keep the accounts and balances and the state of their smart contracts. But they're also fragmenting databases, which is something that also is done by corporations and or large organizations who use cloud services, etc., to create redundancy and to increase scalability and those sort of computer science strategies. No, why? Because they don't focus so much in maximum security. They focus on security, but also in provided high performance services like Visa and MasterCard and PayPal and all those. So it's a good strategy, but again, they are reducing security and increasing scalability. In the case of Ethereum Classic, it deliberately decided to increase security and stay with low scalability. That is the main difference between the two blockchains. However, I'm going to show later that this is complementary. So this is where this last concept, I put this in this table. High security, yes, Ethereum Classic is designed and thought to be a highly secure system. It's not about innovation, it's not about gimmicks, it's not about all these fancy stuff and Shiba coin or shitcoin and all that, or shitcoin. but it's more about security. So in the future, applications that are focused on high security are going to use Ethereum Classic. And here, in terms of scalability, I put an X here, but a yes in the case of Ethereum. Ethereum is going to be totally scalable. And it's going, not only it's going to have the layer of Ethereum, but it's going to have on top even more systems that are going to provide even more scalability, etc. So that's the great difference in both systems. So if ETC is highly secure but not as scalable, and Ethereum is highly scalable but not as secure, what are they good for? No, that was a question that existed before, because before everybody thought that a blockchain was a blockchain and everything was going to happen inside. We didn't have this kind of more detailed demos, conceptualization of layers and modules, modular design of the blockchain industry, which is in hindsight is something that happens in nature and in many industries, and even in technology. Everything in general is layered and divided into modules, so that each module can be specialized in something, and each layer is specialized in delivering some kind of service or of performance, security, or other kinds of features. So it's something that was very general. Based on the description above, due to its scalability, Ethereum 2.0 seems to be a system that will be very adequate to service consumers and enterprise who will need to process high volume, low value transactions. So this is the analogy to PayPal, Visa, etc. Or even Uniswap today, they are processing hundreds of thousands of transactions per day. And they really need to be in another layer, which is much more scalable, with lower fees per transaction, to be able to process much more and be able to compete with the New York Stock Exchange or the large markets of the world, the large financial markets of the world. In the case of Ethereum Classic, it will be very adequate to process low volume, high value transactions. So other systems less well known in the world are the settlement systems. So you have the Fedwire, for example, and in England they have a system that the Bank of England is called CHAPS. The Fedwire is ran by the Federal Reserve. In Europe they have another one. I don't remember the name, but each central bank in the world, in China and Russia and in Brazil, etc., they all have a central core settlement systems, which is designed to be highly secure, and it manages many less transactions than the banking system, but it settles very large values at the end of every day. So that's how banking works, and it's one example of how Ethereum Classic could be used. I am going to show this. The last line is, this means that ETC will likely be a layer 1 highly secure network, and Ethereum 2 will likely be a layer 2 L2 high performance network. I'm going to show this to illustrate this last part. So here in this diagram, I more or less illustrate not only the differences between Ethereum 2.0, which is this segment here, L2 and L3, but and Ethereum Classic, that is here in the layer 1. But I also showing here what is my idea of, which I think is going to happen even if the people of Ethereum don't like it. It's something that is just a physical reality and it's going to happen naturally. It's the vertical integration between Ethereum 2.0 and Ethereum Classic. Ethereum 2.0 is basically this segment here, layer 2. It's the beacon chain that is already working. It was upgraded today, October 27th of 2021. I think it's the last upgrade before the merge between Ethereum 1 and Ethereum 2.2. And Ethereum 2.0 has shards. So these are like mini blockchains, and each one is going to be used for an application. That is in theory. And each one is going to have inside their own data, their own accounts, their own balances, their own smart contracts, and each shard is going to have an important app. No, this one is going to be Uniswap, etc. I don't know if the shards are going to have multiple dApps. decentralized applications, or if each one is going to be wound up. I am sure that at least the very big dApps like Uniswap and the other big ones that are operating DeFi in Ethereum 1.0 are going to occupy a shard. But aside from the theory and these hypothetical designs, this is the design of Ethereum 2.0. They fragmented the database, and they have a base proof of, this is where the stakers are, a proof of stake layer that is going to be producing blocks frequently. I guess it's going to be from 3 to 5 seconds. And then on top, there's a layer 3 that many Ethereum people are building, which are the rollups. And then Plasma was an older idea, which is similar to Lightning Network, but including programmability and execution of smart contracts. And then channels. I think that just basic channels are also going to work on Ethereum 2.0. For example, Lightning Network is going to be a layer that not only operates in on Bitcoin, but also on Ethereum Classic and Ethereum 2.0 and many other blockchains. Money is going to flow across the whole ecosystem of blockchains, independent of from which specific local blockchain they are. For example, Bitcoin is going to exist in Ethereum 2.0 and Ethereum Classic, and Ethereum Classic is going to exist in Ethereum 2.0 and in Bitcoin, and Lightning Network I'm sure is going to be used to move everything between channels and between networks. So this is what I mean by, so this layer is about all of these great technologies that I think are amazing for scalability. Many of these are going to connect directly to Ethereum Classic, I am sure, because Ethereum Classic is also going to provide very good services to these guys. But this vertical integration is what I think that is going to be very complementary between Ethereum 2.0 and Ethereum Classic, because Ethereum Classic can process fewer transactions that may be sent from the beacon chain or charged directly to Ethereum Classic, or the scalability third layer, the even more scalable third layer to Ethereum Classic directly, because Ethereum Classic is going to provide this higher security than the rest of the system, than the rest of this system, and also monetary services, because all this system doesn't have any way to objectively anchor their monetary supplies, etc. So it's very likely that ETC as a coin is going to flow around these systems in the future, when they can differentiate between the coins and how the monetary policies differ, and why one is more objective and the other one is more subjective, and why the stakers can be captured by governments, etc., by jurisdictions. They're going to be known entities, and given any kind of political or economic situation or crisis or emergency, there can be pressure to change the monetary policy again. That is not possible in Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic is a truly distributed, fully replicated network around the world, and the miners can enter and leave, and the nodes can enter and leave, and nobody's going to punish them for entering and leaving. And because of its level of security and objectiveness, because of proof of work, it's going to truly almost provide this code is law feature and philosophy, and that means that not only smart contracts balances and the monetary supply is going to be fixed, but everything is going to be almost ossified and in practice impossible to change. Okay, so these are the differences between Ethereum Classic and Ethereum 2.0, and this is what I see that is going to happen, regardless whether Vitalik or the Ethereum Foundation like it or not, regardless whether all the scientists and PhDs that work here in the theory and in the systems of Ethereum 2.0, just because it's an unavoidable physical reality, they are going to end up anchoring the chain very likely to Ethereum Classic, because Ethereum Classic is going to be this base layer system that is going to be extremely secure and programmable, and is going to interact very smoothly with all the system of smart contracts, and it's going to be absolutely compatible with the AVM standards that these systems are going to follow. So this is the integration that I see between Ethereum Classic and Ethereum 2.0. In fact, I told years ago in 2016, 2017, we were fighting all the time with Vitalik and Vlad Samfir and other people in Ethereum 2.0, Carl, that they should have done this. They should have kept Ethereum 1.0 here, build the beacon chain on top, then the shards on top of the beacon chain, and then whatever plasma at the time it was only in this third layer to provide even more. So this should have been, Ethereum should have been all this system, but because they decided to migrate completely, now they left this opportunity for Ethereum Classic to become this base layer, not only for Ethereum 2.0, but for Cardano, BNB, Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, Solana, all those systems that are subjectively managed by capitalists and large entities that are going to deposit money just to have the privilege of producing blocks. In the future, they're going to be financial institutions anyway, and all those financial institutions are going to respond to whatever their governments say. So they're going to be absolutely subjective systems. They are today, but even more captured by governments and corporations. And the only way to go down and to find security again is going to be to anchor to Ethereum Classic and Bitcoin as well. No? Ethereum Classic and Bitcoin are going to be these amazing, huge base layer systems to provide these security services to the rest of the ecosystems. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.